Hi, it's Chris at Green Our Planet. Today I'm going to go back to the experiment that I've been working on. I'm trying to find out what will happen if I try to grow a lettuce cutting and lettuce from seed. Do I get more lettuce from the cutting or more lettuce from the seed? I'm using the scientific method. When I did the scientific method last time, I thought about a question, which is going to grow more. I made up a procedure, so I set up my experiment. I made some observations and I took some data. So now that I've been running the experiment for a couple of weeks, I want to share with you my results. So let's see what's going on. Here are my lettuce seedlings. They look great. They look like actual lettuce. I'm so excited. And here is my lettuce, yeah, the lettuce cutting. Things went wrong. So here's what it looked like a couple of days ago. Eck, yeah. It got slimy and it fell all apart. It was ready for the composter for sure. Many times it might be tempting to view an experiment like mine as a failure. I admit, I was bummed when I found my slimy lettuce cutting, but then I started asking more questions. What happened? I have heard from friends and I read all over the internet that you can grow new vegetables from vegetable cuttings. So why didn't it work for me? What did I do wrong? Since I have these new questions, I decided I needed to do some research. Research is also part of the scientific method. You can research before you start experimenting to give yourself some background and some understanding of what's going on, which I kind of did that. I knew a little bit about how to plant seeds and how they should grow, what a seedling is, and I had done some reading on the internet and learned about growing these new vegetables from cuttings. So that was my research, but now I need to do some more. So I looked around a little bit. I went back to the trusty old internet and I found out that when you are regrowing vegetable cuttings, you're supposed to change the water every couple of days. Well, in hydroponics, we don't do that. We just refill water as it needs it and we test it and make sure that it has enough nutrients and we just keep going. A hypothesis that I have is that I can't regrow those vegetable cuttings in a crack key system unless I change the water all the time. That's something that I could test and find out. Another part of my research that I did was that I checked my system as I was kind of cleaning up the experiment, and I checked the water. I found out that my water pH, which means how acidic or how basic the water was very high. The pH was at 8.0 when I tested it. Now most plants, when they're growing hydroponically, like to have a pH of about 5.5 to 6.5. So maybe there was a problem with the pH. If I had controlled that a little bit better as I was running my experiment, maybe my lettuce cutting would have done better. That's a hypothesis that I could check. I could do an experiment to see if keeping the pH constant would improve the growth of my cutting. Would it keep it from getting all slimy and falling apart, and would it actually grow? So those are a couple of different things I could try. I have new experiments that I can try. There are probably lots of different ways that you've learned about the scientific method in school. And the scientific method changes over time. Teachers teach it a little bit different. And one thing about science is that those experiments and the scientific method hardly ever go in a straight line. Things are not in the same order every time. But something to remember is that questioning, researching, hypothesizing, experimenting, and communicating are all part of the scientific method, and they're all part of science. So I haven't answered my original question yet, but that's okay. I learned a lot about plants, about crack key systems, and more about the scientific method. And I have tasty lettuce in my future. That's a win in my book. So be curious, be brave, and do some science. See you next time.